What's going on? A to Z Sports Titan Game Day live on this Sunday Halloween morning as the Tennessee Titans are up in Indianapolis in a massive game in the AFC South as the Colts-Titans rematch in Week 8 is about 28 minutes away. Austin Stanley, Zach Bingham, live from Mill Creek Brewery in Nolensville, Tennessee, with our pregame show, later on the halftime show, and the postgame show, as always, presented by NashvillePowersports.com. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks, and obviously Mill Creek Brewing Company. Great food, great drinks, great atmosphere, and a really cool location here in Nolensville. So, Zach, we're here to talk about three big important things the Titans have to do today to sweep the Colts in the regular season for the first time since 2017. The Colts are a lot healthier than they were the last time these two teams played, but it's a big matchup here in Week 8 on Halloween morning. I hope everybody had a great Saturday night and enjoying their start to their Halloween. Zach, welcome in. We're going to have a big show this morning.
Yeah, and this morning I woke up, and these three keys we're going to talk about, something came over me. I was thinking about this game. I was thinking about the Vegas line that had happened and how that movement and
all over the place.
Very, very strange that, the Titans coming off the win that they did against the Chiefs, but also you've got a surging Colts team in Indy with their backs against the wall. And I came up with these three things that if they are able to achieve all three of them,
yes,
the Titans will win this game. I guarantee that, but it's going to be difficult to execute all three. They may do 2 out of 3. They may do 1 out of 3. I don't foresee them not doing any of the three, but I do think these are the big keys to the game. And we have come to a tipping point. This is very unusual in a season that you have this type of game in Week 8 that can decide the division. Based on the schedule looking ahead for the Tennessee Titans and what we know about the rest of the league, and then based on where the Colts are at right now, this is the biggest game of the season because, as we've all said, the easiest way to get to the playoffs is win your division.
No doubt about that. So let's get this thing going. A to Z Sports Titan Game Day live from Mill Creek Brewing Company in Nolensville, Tennessee is brought to you by NashvillePowersports.com. Also brought to you by BetMGM. Download the app. Use that code ATOZ Sports for risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first deposit and your first bet. So Nashville Power Sports pregame show. We'll talk about the injuries with what's happening with no Julio Jones, no Rashaan Evans, no T.R. Tart. We obviously know who all is on injured reserve. But, Zach, let's dive into these three things that the Titans must achieve. Zach, get it started.
Yeah, well, I think you start number one, and this is in no particular order. Like I said, if they accomplish all three, it doesn't really matter. I'll start with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is the key to this game. It's massive. We all know what type of impact he can have on Titans, Colts, just Titans game in general. I think Derrick Henry is number one. If he has a solid game, if he has a plus 100-yard rushing game, that's going to be massive for them. Also, the other thing that I would say is pressure. They've done a good job of getting pressure in the last several weeks. They have. And, I think they'll be able to get Bud Dupree and Harold Landry off of the edge to get pressure on Carson Wentz. And the last thing I think that is very, very important has to be protection. Protection of Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill, the last several weeks, the last 2 weeks, have done a very good job up front, the Titans protecting Tannehill. If they're able to accomplish protection, pressure, and Derrick Henry, the Titans will come home with a win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the recipe to win every football game, is it not? I mean, it's run the ball, affect the opposing quarterback, and protect your own quarterback. But I do think you're right, especially with what the Colts have the ability to do down the field in the passing game. And with Jonathan Taylor, the last 4 games, and all 3 games that the Colts have won, Jonathan Taylor has rushed for over 100 yards. And so if the Tennessee Titans can slow down Jonathan Taylor, then I think that's a big deal for this game. But getting after Carson Wentz is also very important, as Zach is attempting to fix the audio issues that you guys are hearing there. Mudgy, we're working on that, but appreciate it. But Derrick Henry, was slowed down against the Chiefs last week, just 86 yards on 29 carries for 3 yards a pop. So I do think that is a big impact of the Titans being able to get Derrick Henry back going. But again, it's can they affect Carson Wentz? Carson Wentz is turnover prone, but in the games that the Colts have won, Carson Wentz has been phenomenal. In the games that he's lost, the Colts have lost, he has struggled. He throws up interceptable passes. Now, he's also got Michael Pittman, who can bring down some 50-50 balls and make plays. And another thing that the Colts offense does quite a bit is they try to draw the deep down the field pass interferences on the defense. They did that three times against the Niners last week, where 3 big pass interference penalties really impacted that game and helped the Colts score points there in that game where they were basically in a bomb monsoon that they're going up in Santa Clara. So I think for me, it's can they pressure Carson Wentz, Harold Landry, Bud Dupree, and also Jeff Simmons and Danico Autry in his first game back in Indianapolis. That's where I think it's a big deal for the Titans to be able to pressure Carson Wentz. When it comes to protecting Ryan Tannehill, Lawan's back in the lineup after clearing concussion protocol, which is also a rather large thing for the Titans. Can Quessenberry hold up? Because the Colts will have Kwity Paye available as well, because Kwity Paye did not play in that first game as he went out with injury there for the Colts. So, and Dion will talk about Avery Williamson as well with what Avery Williamson can do as the Titans are without Rashaan Evans today. So a lot of things to talk about here. We're going to go ahead and ask you guys this question. We're going to talk about these 3 things. What's most important for the Titans to have to beat the Colts? What is most important for the Titans to have happen today to beat the Colts? Is it pressure, protection, or is it Derrick Henry? Live from Mill Creek Brewing Company with the pregame show that is presented by NashvillePowersports.com. If you're looking for a brand new custom golf cart, they've got you covered. NashvillePowersports.com, locally owned and operated. Their owners are very hands-on and involved with the production and the customer service as their company because they care. NashvillePowersports.com is where to go. They customize anything when it comes to their golf cart, 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater. They can make it street legal right there at NashvillePowersports.com.
So if you'll adjust your mic real quick and we'll get those problems solved here live from Mill Creek Brewing. I do think it's a good question because I think it starts, honestly, and a lot of people are saying pressure. I think that is the key because that helps the defense. We know Derrick Henry can do Derrick Henry type things. I think if you look at it, they've done a good job. They get Lawan back for the protection. It's this pressure because it helps the back half of the defense so much. It helps the linebackers, and we'll talk about Rashaan Evans. It helps the secondary who has been playing above. But it's Bud Dupree and Harold Landry. It is Danico Autry and Jeff Simmons. That has been the changing tide of the Tennessee Titans over the last 2 weeks. And if that continues to progress and do well, then I think that's my answer. It's the pressure from up front, and we haven't seen this consistent of pressure the last 2 weeks for an extended amount of time on a run. They finally got their pieces, and we'll find out if they can have success.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because pressure and protection, obviously the Titans have struggled with both of those things at times this year, but as of late, both things have been very strong because 1 sack allowed on Ryan Tannehill in the last 2 games is a big deal, and getting after Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes to force those guys into mistakes the last 2 weeks has been a big part of the Titans in upsets. And by the way, the Titans are 3-point underdogs and underdogs for the 3rd straight week here on the road at Indy. I mean, can they pull off the 3rd consecutive underdog win in Indianapolis, which would be huge? And I think everything goes into it. When it comes to Derrick Henry, Zach, do you expect Derrick Henry to ball out again? Because we've become numb, all of us, all of you guys watching and all the Titans media covering this team have become numb to Derrick Henry having huge, massive games where we see an 86 yards performance with no touchdowns. And you're like, low, bad game for Derrick Henry. But it was very impactful in that game, and he has gone over 100 yards in the last 4 times he's played the Colts. So can Derrick Henry continue that streak, and would that be enough for the Titans to win this game?
Well, last game he had 113 yards off 28 carries. Todd Downing, the offensive coordinator, is not afraid to run Derrick Henry. I mean, we've seen that throughout the course of the season. He is on pace, and we on AFCSports.com, Adam Holt, one of our writers, does it every week. It is the tracker of what the record that Derrick Henry can set. One of those is carries, as they have a 17-game season this year. But I do think that Derrick Henry is a massive factor. We've become numb to it, but, I mean, he's on par. I mean, that is standard. That is on pace for what Derrick Henry is to this Titans team. So you have to expect it if you're a Titans fan, is that Derrick Henry is going to do his job. It's the other guys, right? Without Julio Jones and that threat, who's going to step up? We talked about Michael Pruitt this week because he has had a good game. What is Ferkser going to do in his role? And then the lesser wide receivers not named A.J. Brown, how are they going to step up? I will say this about the offense, Austin. You look at that game against the Colts, and look, Carson Wentz couldn't move. He was taped up from ankle to head to toe, essentially. But Ryan Tannehill rushed for 56 yards off 5 carries and scrambled. Look for them to get him in space and roll out, because they've had success with Ryan Tannehill this year.
Yeah. Now, he hasn't run the ball that often or, for a lot of yards really since that game. But he had the rushing touchdown last week, because that's another big thing, too, because I did see a comment from you guys, Cody, saying, I want to see the Titans pass first to open up the run, because what did I talk about last week is that Derrick Henry, while only rushing for 86 yards on 29 carries, the Titans in the first half passing off of play action to Derrick Henry, 6 for 6 for 119, and Ryan Tannehill ran for a touchdown. So can the Titans, now that the Colts just watched that too last week, can the Titans keep that up? Because the Colts are expecting play action pass. Like, you've got to be, if you're playing against the Titans, you have to be expecting play action pass. How do they change their coverage in the back end, but also stay true to stopping Derrick Henry, but also know that A.J. Brown's going to run a slant right behind your linebackers? And so it's, what do you want to have happen? Do you want Derrick Henry to gain 6 yards on 1st and 10, or do you want the potential for A.J. Brown to have a 10-yard catch right over your head? So it's that limbo, that conflict that you're putting the Colts linebackers in. And if their DBs are going to cheat inside to stop the slant, we saw the Titans can go play action pass deep ball down the sideline to AJ, because they did that for 46 yards. And I think all of this, I'm getting X's and O's here real quick, but I think it's a really good point, because I've heard Dave McGinnis talk about this with Buck on the 615 Sessions podcast. When defenses play the Titans, there's one deep safety. And because they have to have an extra guy up towards Derrick Henry. So now the slants are open because the linebackers get sucked in. And if the DB cheats inside to take away the slant, you've got one safety in the middle to hit AJ down the sideline. That's a lot of ground to cover. And so that's where you're seeing the true impact of how Derrick Henry impacts and changes a defensive strategy, and how having a guy like AJ, Julio's out today, but having 2 of those type of guys really makes a big difference.
Yeah, well, it's a simple threat, right? I mean, to have that threat opens up so many different patterns that you can take advantage of. And I think the Titans have shown throughout the course of the year that they've been able to utilize those at times, and other times maybe not as much. But the last 2 weeks, man, the confidence level is starting to rise as they have been successful against the Bills and the Chiefs. Now they have their test. Austin, we knew this. Biggest 4-game stretch of the season was going to be Monday night against Buffalo, Kansas City, at Indy, and then next week at the LA Rams. They're 2-0 out of those 4 games.
Yep.
I really think that they can be 3-0 if they hit their spots and get a lead early, I do think that that's important. They can't be playing from behind without Julio Jones.
And they can't have 3 turnovers like they did the first time these two teams played. And here's the thing about this whole 4-game stretch that we talked about is the whole time when we are leading up to the 4-game stretch, this game was always this has to be one of your wins. And so you're 2-0. Great. That's a big thing to beat the Bills and the Chiefs, but you still have to win this game. If you lose this game, you still leave the door open for somebody else to win the AFC South because the Colts are able to be buried now. And I do want to get to our next conversation before we get to our game predictions, as we're about 13 minutes away from Titans-Colts here live at Mill Creek Brewing Company. Austin Stanley, Zach Bingham for Titan Game Day Live. G-Man on base says, overall, I have to say the Julio trade just hasn't helped out much. Low production, low availability. Julio Jones, as Luke Worsham put it, is perpetually week to week at this point. He plays one game, he doesn't play the next, and it's just this cycle that's annoying everybody that's associated with watching the Tennessee Titans because you want to see Julio Jones have a big impact. And now Rashaan Evans was downgraded on Saturday to being out. So there are 2 key players because last week I said Rashaan Evans has to have a big game because Rashaan Evans has to not guess wrong and play disciplined to help slow down Jonathan Taylor for this Titans defense. Jonathan Taylor's had 3 100-yard games in the Colts, 3 wins. So now he's out. Julio's out. 2 guys that have to step up big time in this game. But Zach, first tell everybody more about where we're at.
Yeah, we are live from Mill Creek Brewing Tap Room. I mean, it is a awesome place to watch football. They got the food truck right over here. They're making unbelievable burgers that I'm going to have probably in the first half. But come on out, enjoy. By halftime, this place has just got a great atmosphere. It truly does. Plus, in the corner, shout out to Nashville Power Sports. They got a Titan-themed golf cart. That thing is awesome. I mean, it really is. You can be cruising down the streets. It's street legal.
Yeah,
you can cruise down the streets from Nashville Power Sports, the great sponsor of this game day show. But we're live here at Mill Creek Brewing. They got beers on tap. It's flowing. They got food. This is the place to watch Titans and Colts.
All right, so I'm curious, which is more concerning to you, Zach? No Julio Jones or no Rashaan Evans?
Well, I think they've proven that with A.J. Brown, I think they've proven that they can win games maybe without Julio Jones. Now, somebody else is going to have to step up in Jones's absence.
Yep.
But I don't know. Rashaan Evans hasn't missed many games, right?
No, he's been available. Yeah, he's been available for the majority of his career. Yeah.
Now he's been up and down with his actual play, but I think honestly, Rashaan Evans is my answer. I don't know how this defense is going to react with guys that are going to have to step up that we're not used to.
Yeah, I think in Tank Sinatra, who's been a very good user with a great username on YouTube, says Julio for sure. It's just a presence thing. And Jeff Rubel says no Julio because now they can double A.J. Brown. And so the problem is Rashaan Evans had been playing really well the last 2 weeks, and now he's gone. Now he's not out there. And I don't know what to expect because David Long Jr. has played great at inside linebacker next to Rashaan Evans. Jayon Brown is back off of IR, active. That's good. Avery Williamson, who was just signed a couple weeks ago, former Titan who's never played for Vrabel, but he is also active. And then Monty Rice, the 3rd-round pick from Georgia, who's a rookie, who's been battling injuries and hasn't really done much on defense, is also active. So which of those 3 is going to get the majority of the snaps next to David Long Jr.? I don't think it's Jayon Brown. I think they view Jayon Brown and David Long as the same type of linebacker, so I don't think they put them on the field at the same time that often. They will at some points in 3rd and longs, but not that often. So do they trust the new guy in Avery Williamson, who is a veteran in the league but has never played in the system, or do they go with the 3rd-round draft pick rookie who has been battling injuries and hasn't had a lot of experience? That's something I'm looking to watch. But whoever they go with has to play disciplined and well because Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, and even Marlon Mack can burn you. On the offensive side, who's going to replace Julio? This is a Marcus Johnson game for me. I think Marcus Johnson's on the outside. Chester Rogers back up playing the slot.
He's been sneaky good.
Which one?
Marcus Johnson.
Oh, absolutely. He balled up. Both those 2 guys, Marcus Johnson, Chester Rogers, were the surprise storylines in training camp. Now, I think Marcus Johnson needs to have, 50-plus yards receiving today Chester Rogers can help out with about the same type of production to even out what AJ can get. AJ needs to have 80 or more, I think, for the balance sake. But I think this is a Marcus Johnson game. And we mentioned Danico Autry earlier. Both Marcus Johnson and Chester Rogers are former Colts playing in Indy for the first time. What type of motivation is there for those guys playing in Lucas Oil Stadium?
Yeah, I think there is motivation. Anytime you face an old team, I mean, you get a little bit more juice when you wake up on Sunday morning. And now the level of this game, and look, these guys know it. Mike Vrabel and Frank Wright, they know the importance of this game in slamming the door shut on the AFC South going up 2 games. I mean, they have the tiebreak. And if not, the Colts move to 500 and they're sneakily coming back into the picture. You don't have to worry about Jacksonville or Houston, but this could be a problem. You need guys playing at an all-time level today in a massive divisional game. I mean, they're wearing the icy whites. Maybe that'll give them a little juice. I'm really excited about this game. It's a big game in the NFL.
Yeah, and to me, I just saw Paul Kaharski tweeted that it looks like, based off of pregame warm-ups, that Monty Rice is going to be the starter next to David Long Jr. So now you've got a rookie making his first start in a game that you've got to win against an offense that scored 28 points a game the last month.
And the Colts attack. They're going to go right to his gap, right to his assignment. They are going to test Monty Rice.
Yes.
So this is put up or shut up day for Monty Rice. I can tell you that.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Zach, we are 7 minutes away from kickoff. And by the way, I just saw a guy walk in here with his golf clubs at Mill Creek Brewery because they have a golf simulator in the back. So if you want to come watch NFL football,
they really
and then take some swings in the golf simulator, I mean, my God, why not? I mean, it's cold outside. Golf season's almost done outside, but golf season continues at Mill Creek. So you can come watch the Titans and swing the clubs on their golf simulator in the back.
Burgers, beer, golf, football, sign me up on a Sunday.
No doubt. All right, Zach, who wins this game? Titans versus Colts. The line has been crazy at BetMGM. We talked about this quite a bit this week. As Monday, the Colts were 1.5 favorites. Then the Titans swung to a 1.5 favorite. And then now the Colts, Zach, are -3 in Indy. So who wins this game? Download the BetMGM app. You still got time to do this. Download the BetMGM app. Titans +3 or the Titans money line +130 is a pretty good value here if you believe in the Titans to beat the Colts for the second time in the season. But download the app, use a risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first deposit and your first bet. That's betmgm.com. Visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years or older. Must be present in Tennessee. And for gambling problem support, call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9799.
Well, and Ben Hall brings up, Titans being an underdog is all Mike Vrabel needs. I like that comment, Ben, because that has been the case, and that has been the truth over the last several seasons that Mike Vrabel has been the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. When push come to shove, Vrabel's got that pad on his chest, and he's pushing, baby. He's shoving, and he usually wins these type games. Vegas knows something, though, Austin. I kind of have the same feeling that I had prior to the Jets game. Now, the one difference is A.J. Brown is going to play in this game, and I think that is a big difference. The defense is playing very well. Derrick Henry usually steps up when he plays the Colts or has over the last couple of years. They're wearing the icy whites. But
Ghost mode on Halloween with the icy whites.
But, man, I don't have a good feeling about this game. And look, I picked the Titans to beat the Bills on Monday night. I picked the Titans to beat the Kansas City Chiefs last week, 2-0 in those 2 big games. But, man, I think this is going to be a fight. This is going to be a battle, and this is going to be a field goal type game. 28-27 Colts is my prediction.
Really?
And look, I hope I'm wrong, but I think this is you have a team that their season is on the line. I think the Titans are a better football team overall than the Colts.
Desperation's big in the Colts side right now.
And home field advantage. My fear, and my fear is the Titans will get down early. If they get a lead, 14, 17, 10 points, I think the Titans have a great opportunity to win this game. But I think the Colts are going to come out with a lot of juice, and that's why I'm predicting them to win.
Look, Derek says, you guys never have a good feeling. Derek, did you just ignore when Zach just said that he predicted a win over the Bills and the Chiefs the last 2 weeks? Like, come on, guys. Like, good Lord. I don't feel like I did against the Jets when I said this game smells funny like 18 times that morning. But this game, it doesn't smell funny like that, but I also have an uneasy feeling about it. I think the Colts' desperation is a big factor here. And, Zach, I don't think it's that many points. I have it at 20-17 Colts.
Oh, okay. Well,
20-17.
You know, the good thing for Titans fans, usually when the graphic, on Monday Night Football and they all pick the same team, that usually the opposite happens. Well, we both picked the Colts. We'll see if that opposite happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. But thanks, everybody, for joining us. Again, Twitter's having some issues, so make sure you really subscribe to us on YouTube. Have live notifications ready. We'll be back live at halftime here at Mill Creek Brewing Company. Come join us out here. Thanks again to NashvillePowersports.com. Always a great sponsor and a great company to get a custom golf cart that dominate the neighborhood. NashvillePowersports.com. We will see you guys at halftime. Enjoy the first half. Thanks.